This is the new Sram Red AXS, and it's lighter, more comfortable, and undoubtedly has less ugly shifters than ever before. However, to be a success, it has to do just one thing, and that's be better than Shimano Dura Ace Di2. Well, today is the day that we try and answer that question. The two top tier road group sets are going head to head. So stick around to see which one I would choose in 2024. Campagnolo used to rule the roost when it came to road group sets, but these days, if you're a professional cycling team, you seemingly have a choice, whether to fit Shimano Dura Ace to your bikes or whether you go for Sram Red. Both have electronic shifting, both are hydraulic disc brake only, and both weigh about 2.5 kilos. How then do you go about choosing between them? Well, up until now, I haven't. I have one of my bikes set up with Shimano and the other with SRAM. There really is that little to choose between them. I am most definitely what you would call on the fence, or Cotswold stone wall. So today I'm going to be using them back to back to see whether this latest generation can change that. Firstly, let's take a look at the new SRAM Red, because not many people have had the chance to use it yet. SRAM says that every part of the new Red has been refined, but the press release focuses on an improved, lighter brake feel, smoother front shifting, and expanded gearing choices. Clearly, the biggest visual difference is these shifters. They're much less bulbous, which in my opinion looks a lot better. But let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Like on both the previous generation of Red and on Shimano Dura Ace, you still get 12 gears. And as we've become accustomed to with SRAM, the derailleurs are wireless and have a battery on each of them. Although just about every component has been fettled with, there's still plenty of similarities with the now previous generation. It still uses direct mount chainrings. There's both 1x and 2x options available. There's still a Quark power meter option. The smallest sprocket is still 10 tooth. You can still change gear using a single button on each shifter, and even the graphics look pretty similar. You can read our full review of the new group set over on the road.cc website, and we'll pop a link down in the description below. SRAM's new rear mech has shaved off 16 grams and got itself some new larger pulley wheels, which are said to reduce chain articulation. But can it now shift faster than Shimano? Well, let's go and find out. Well, that was pretty inconclusive. The real answer to the question lies in the feel of each gear shift, rather than the speed itself. Up until now, Shimano has always been my preference when it comes to physical shifting performance. The latest Dura Ace R9200 has absolutely pinpoint precision and feels instantaneous, whereas previous generations of SRAM ETAP have been noticeably slower. This latest Red group set isn't noticeably slower though. In fact, when shifting through multiple gears, it might actually be faster. It does still feel different though, not necessarily better or worse, just different. To try and put that into words is rather tricky. It's kind of like more clunky. Not clunky as in crap, but you know about it when the chain travels from sprocket to sprocket, or chainring to chainring. Like you can feel that mechanical interaction rather than just a glide. I realise that sounds like a negative, but there's no rasping or ticking, just a reassuring clunk, and then bam, the next gear is reassuringly engaged. In his full review, Stu likened himself to a bear eating porridge. Dura Ace is the smoothest, Campagnolo WRL has the most mechanical feel, and this latest Red sits somewhere in the middle. For Stu, this was a happy medium. The Red was most to his taste. Personally, I do still like Dura Ace, but for the first time, I don't think that the Red's shifting performance is lacking behind. So yeah, sorry, there is no clear winner here. It will come down to individual taste. One thing that we can agree on though, is that both Dura Ace and the latest Red are absolutely excellent in terms of shift speed and performance. As we all know, a few 100 grams is going to make absolutely zero difference to how fast you can ride. Still, chances are if you're in the market for one of these two group sets, then value for money isn't exactly your primary concern. And so the weight of your group set will determine how much you can show off at the cafe, which as we know is very important. This latest SRAM Red has been billed by SRAM as the lightest ever electronic group set. The non-power meter group set, which isn't the one we've got here, weighs in at 2,461 grams, some 154 grams lighter than the previous generation. And that's around 400 grams lighter than SRAM Force AXS. Shimano Dura Ace, meanwhile, weighs in at 2,507 grams, so around 40 grams heavier than the Red. Once again, in the real world, that is going to make absolutely no difference, but it is an impressive feat of engineering nonetheless. SRAM is very proud of what it calls true one-finger braking, which is a not very creative way of saying you can brake using one finger. I don't know what gubbins they've done to it, but it really does work. Of course, SRAM have also made some other changes. They've changed the pad clearance so that when you're going down a hill, you heat up your discs and they warp a bit. That happens to all disc brakes. Now the pads are further apart, so you're not going to get that annoying tinging noise, which is something that annoyed me on the last Sram Red. But then it does also annoy me on Shimano Dura Ace, and they said that they'd increase the pad clearance. Anyway, this one's better. It's better than Dura Ace in that regard. Other things to note is that even though these shifters have got quite a lot smaller, you do still get your lever reach adjustment, so how far away it is from the bar, and also your contact point adjustment, which sort of changes how much brake you need to make it touch the, to actually do braking. All under this little cap. Look at that. There's a hole. There's a hole in the front of the lever. The other day, we discussed how modern gearing had got so much better in the last 2 decades or so. And both the new Sram Red and the latest Shimano Dura Ace have more options and more range than ever before. This SRAM, for example, comes with a choice of 46-33 tooth chainrings, 48-35, 50-37, 52-39, 54-41, or 56-43. You might have noticed that all of those have a 13 tooth gap in between them, which SRAM says has helped it make its front derailleur actually work. That's not the exact words they used, but that's what I took from it. At the back, there's also loads of choice, and whereas there's previously been 2 rear mechs, there's just 1 now, which simplifies things a lot. That's compatible with between a 1028 tooth cassette and up to a 1036, which now exists in red format. Before, you had to use a Force 1036 cassette. So this one's a bit lighter. This one's a 1033 though, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Shimano, meanwhile, is available in up to a 1034 tooth cassette. So this makes more sense if you want to run one by, which not everyone does, but some people do. Now SRAM use what they call their X range gearing. So it's a smaller chain rings at the front, but then you get a 10 tooth cog at the back, whereas the Shimano sticks with an 11 tooth cog at the back, which is more traditional. There were fears from people in comment sections everywhere that the 10 tooth cog would wear out quicker. I think most people have realized that that is not the case, and you'll always wear out the middle of your block the quickest because that's the gears that you use the most. But the smaller chain rings with a wide cassette means that you can stay in big ring for longer, which might be good. It might be good. Personally, I think that X-range gearing, the SRAM option, is very good for your everyday rider. And whilst the pros might want really close ratios at the back, I think that this smaller chainring setup compared with a wide range cassette really works out in the real world, traveling at speeds that me and you might be able to achieve rather than what those really kenos might. Also, something else that's new is those jockey wheels have got bigger, and also it's got a ceramic bearing in. That's going to make no difference, is it? In the past, the front chainring shifting performance of SRAM has been the primary reason to go for Shimano instead. But in the last few years, SRAM has been working hard to overturn that reputation. Both group sets then are more than capable of doing some impressive shifting under load, as long as you set them up correctly. And I do think that the days of SRAM's front shifting woes could be behind them. One thing that I do really like about my Shimano group sets is that they have auxiliary buttons on top of the hoods that you can change gear with, or you can control your cycle computer or lights and all sorts of other fancy tech. Well, the new Sram Red has finally joined the party, and they too now have an auxiliary button, one on each shifter. Out the box, these will control the rear mech, but you can also use them to control any ANT+ cycle computer. When you're riding along, you do have to reach for them though. That is my only bugbear. Whereas that feels quite natural, where the Shimano ones are. This one sort of feels a bit, I don't really know whether to use that bit of my thumb or that bit of my thumb. But you know, first world problems. Comfort might seem like an odd thing to rate a Groupset on, but it is one of only 3 contact places on the bike, so bear with me. Your Groupset is responsible for the shifting, the braking, the pedaling, and well, quite a lot of other things you do out on rides. So any discomfort or poor ergonomics is most definitely a reason not to buy it. Firstly, let's touch on shifter comfort, and both have done a really quite good job, as you'd hope on Groupsets that cost over £3,000. Obviously, the Sram Red one's got quite a lot smaller, and this cut-off design that we've seen on Sram Force and Sram Rival, and even Sram Apex, Sram Red really was the last to that game. The old Sram Red shifters, nothing overly wrong with them, but I don't think I was alone in finding them a bit too bulky and a bit too, there was too much there. And that's probably why we saw riders like Jonas Vingegaard using the Sram Force shifter body instead of Sram Red. These new ones, however, they're much smaller, but you still get quite a good bit of, you're not going to fall off the front of them. And you get a really good, even on a bumpy descent, you can hold on pretty tight because they've slimmed this whole area down, and now you can get your hand around them pretty good. In fact, I don't think that these red levers are too dissimilar size to Shimano Dura Ace, and I'd find both perfectly comfortable even on 100-mile rides. These Sram ones are now also much better with smaller hands, which is nice. Speaking of smaller people, and anyone who wants to run shorter cranks, this is another area that SRAM has upped their game. SRAM Red is now available in 160, 165, 167.5, 170, 172.5 and 175mm crank lengths. We're seeing a lot of the pros go down to shorter cranks. You might have seen our bike fit video the other day where a bike fitter told us that there was lots of benefits to going to shorter cranks. So SRAM seems to be diving into that trend. Shimano, you might think they've got more crank arm lengths, so you might think you've got more choice there, but they start at 165 and then go up to 180. I don't know how many people are buying 177.5mm or 180mm cranks, but there we go. Maybe Shimano knows something we don't. Here at road.cc, we always base our reviews on the RRP, so that's what we'll do here as well. It is worth bearing in mind though that Dura Ace R9200 has been out for quite a while now, so it is possible to get it at a pretty hefty discount. Groupset prices are never as easy as they seem, are they? But don't worry, I've consulted a spreadsheet. Let's start with Dura Ace, as that does seem the most simple. The RRP of R9200 is £3,499. That price, however, doesn't include a set of disc rotors, so we'll add on a set of those at an RRP of £65 a pop, bringing our new total to £3,629. Oh, Shram, where do we start? On the sheet that we've been sent, you can buy the new Red for £3,000. A bargain, I hear you cry. Sadly, we do also need to add some rather important bits to this as well. A chain set, for example, will set you back £700. And a cassette an eye-watering £390. That gives a total of £4,090 RRP in its cheapest guise. You do, however, for that price get a Karoo head unit. I told you it wasn't simple. If you actually want that, then that's a £450 extra. That means that the actual Groupset parts come to a total of £3,640, just £11 more than Dura Ace. It looks like we aren't splitting the two apart on price then. If you want a power meter on the new Sram Red, then that is an additional £500. Or if you want one on Shimano, then that's a £700 surcharge. So I've got to ride one of these two lovely bikes home today. So based on the Groupset alone, which one is it going to be? Well, it's going to be the Sram Red.
After decades of trying, I think that it's finally managed to surpass Shimano Dura Ace. There's no longer a weight penalty, the shifting is now nearly as quick and as reliable. You now get the nice extra buttons like you do with Shimano. You get a power meter system that has earned a much better reputation than just about anything Shimano has produced. And these shifters and braking feel like a real step forwards in an area that we didn't even realise needed improving. At a brief glance, the new Sram Red might not appear a whole lot different to the old version, but the incremental improvements mean that it's now quite possibly the best money no object group set in the world. In fact, I wouldn't be at all surprised if we see a fair few more World Tour teams swapping suppliers next year. Shimano, let this be your wake-up call. Dura Ace is due an update in 2025, so let's see if they can reclaim their ultimate road bike group set title. Let us know what you think of the new Sram Red down in the comments section below, as well as whether you'd choose it over Shimano Dura Ace. If you found this video useful, then please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all the latest bike tech, and we'll see you next time.